Shaman banned away, and believe it or not, Boar Control also has his Shaman banned away.
I was expecting this. I was expecting Shaman to be banned a lot, just because of the strength. Both mid-range and face Shaman are both so strong, so I'm not entirely surprised. But interesting that we do see a Hunter from Boar Control. I mean, possibly he could be going for a Death Rattle Hunter, obviously with Enzoth, the new legendary that revives all Death Rattle minions when you play it.
Yeah, there you go.
And there he is. Speak of the devil, Enzoth is in the
Speak of the old gods.
Speak of the old gods.
Yeah, so Enzoth obviously going to be the keystone in this deck, but also Call of the Wild going to be there. We kind of touched on this earlier, how maybe we'll see a lot of it, maybe we won't. Not seen as much Hunter as maybe we were expecting.
I think in mid-range Hunter,
it makes much more sense.
It's much more sense because it gives you a huge amount of board control instantaneously for 8 mana. The issue I see with it in Face Hunter is you're sacrificing a card that you can use earlier on in the game for more burst damage. I think it's just too slow in something like Face Hunter. But in mid-range Hunter, it's fantastic. It's a really, really good card. It gives you, what, a 5/4, a 5/4, no, sorry, a 5/2, a 5/4, and a 2/4 on board for 8 mana. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, and one of them can attack instantaneously.
I think the key thing as well isn't just... Every time I hear people talk about this card, they kind of talk about it as if you're just playing this card and only this card.
Exactly,
The big thing is you're already going to have minions on the board.
Yes.
If you've played Call of the Hounds with it, like, instantly you've got a board full with Leok. Like, that's a massive thing in itself. Or just any other minions. Let's bear in mind, Leok doesn't just buff beast, it buffs everything. But enough of my rant. Let's take a look at the starting hands of these two players.
Another important thing to note on with Call of the Wild is it summons them in alphabetical order. So say if you had 5 minions on board already, it would only summon Huffer and Leok. It wouldn't summon Misha. So instantly, you've got that crazy burst damage.
Yeah, so Misha, in most senses, is usually considered the worst of the 3 animal companions to get. And in this kind of situation, it'll always give you, you know, one of the best 2 in most situations, Huffer or Leok, depending on what you need it for, because Misha is unfortunately just a 4/4 taunt, which can't have that effect that turn, whereas if you have a board, or you need to do something on board that's proactive, both Huffer and Leok have the ability to help you out directly in that sense. So yeah, 100%. Alphabetic also makes really good sense.
It does look like we're seeing Tempo Mage out of Greensheep, Brown Bronzebeard as well, so possibly this is like a Yogg Saron Mage. I mean, I know Yogg Saron...
I hope so.
It's definitely a viable thing right now. Yogg Saron can lose you the game, but it's also it's definitely an out. If you're behind on board, it can just suddenly wipe a board out. It's good to have. I mean, I'm not sure kind of how far it will go in the competitive scene, but right now it's definitely doing some work.
Brown Bronzebeard, Yogg Saron.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. We've all seen the YouTube videos.
There's a great YouTube video on Reddit recently where he basically cast about 50 spells, I think it was, and it eventually ended up winning him the game. But some of the targets that were selected were just fantastic.
Yeah, I've only actually seen one Yogg Saron in ladder against me, and it actually ended up losing them the game. He ended up pyroblasting himself in the face, which is never really an ideal situation. So,
well,
it's definitely an interesting card.
So you can see Boar Control's face. He's like, why am I seeing Brown Bronzebeard in this mage come out turn 3? Now he has options. He can coin out the Infested Wolf,
yeah.
Or he can try and roll lucky and 33% chance for Huffer and just take out this Brown Bronzebeard.
You want to try and clear this, but really what are you scared of right now? You're not going to be worried about Faceless Summoner just yet. Obviously facing a Summoner with Brown Bronzebeard is unreal, as we see Huffer getting summoned, because it's always Huffer.
But you can see, yeah, this is I think this is Yogg. This must be Yogg Saron, right?
It might be just Tempo Mage without Yogg Saron.
But he's running so many spells.
The Brown Bronzebeard would suggest that it might be, but I mean, like we said, Brown Bronzebeard with Faceless Summoner is just unreal.
Boar Control, you can see he's incredibly confused about what's going on right now. He's like, what? Why has he just pinged me on turn 4 when he just played Brown Bronzebeard?
Because Piloted Shredder is no longer in the
meta. Yeah.
That's why. There is no tone 4 play anymore.
There's no 4-drops that anyone finds useful.
No, I mean, do you just play Infested Wolf here?
I think so.
I think that's just the most solid play, really.
I really like this card as well. I do think Hunter definitely has some options. I don't think it's really been developed fully just yet. But this is basically like the Haunted Creeper's older brother, right?
Yeah, it is Haunted Creeper's older brother.
I do wish it was a 3/4, I've got to say.
I think it would be really
so
strong if it
much
was
better
a
if it was a
3-4.
3-4.
The interesting thing is the spiders that it summons are beasts.
Yeah,
I think we all were wanting
Yeah,
to say that
literally
next.
everyone was going to go for that point. It's so good in Hunter because obviously the spectral spiders that you get from Haunted Creeper aren't beasts. So if that dies, you lose the ability to synergize with beasts. However, this is great for Hunter because you always somehow retain some form of beast on board, and he's just going to go and play another one. The issue for Boar Control at this point, though, is these aren't particularly threatening cards, and here comes Munch's OP card of the expansion.
I just think this card is so broken.
So
It's just like instantly turn 6, you've just got a strong board, and there's so many really, really good 3-drops as well. That's the thing.
would you say you can kill command coin Houndmaster here? I think that's a pretty good play for me. But then also you could just Houndmaster trade in your Infested Wolf.
I think Houndmaster makes a lot of sense here.
I think Kill Command as well, though. See, I think Kill Command...
You could do both.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things as well, is Kill Command is no longer just this tool that you only ever want to hit on face now. This is actually something that you can use for board control and it not feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, when Mid-Range Hunter was popular around a year ago, to maybe a year and a bit longer than that, the Kill Command was mainly a board control tool.
Yep.
And obviously with the inclusion of Face Hunter, that kind of fell out of favor. But now it's come back and we're using it as more of a, it's an incredibly ridiculously good form of board control if you have a beast. It's really good.
I think the decision here is he's reluctant to use that coin because he knows he can coin
Call
up
of the
with the Wild
yeah.
on turn 7, which is always going to be a strong play.
Yeah.
It does look like he is going to favour that.
He's going to play a Knife Juggler as well, and then get some free spiders out to throw some extra knives at the face of Greensheep. So that's going to be a relatively decent turn there. It's not the strongest of boards, but realistically on turn 7,
Wow.
you're not exactly going to Flame Strike that.
Flamemaker off the top is crazy.
And also, look, he's got the Cthulhu Priest.
I think a lot of mages are running that regardless without them because it gives +2 spell damage, and for a 2-mana 2/3, is it a 2-mana 3/2? Sorry, you just hover over it for me off memory. Yeah, it's a 3/2
with a +1 spell
with +1
damage,
spell damage is just a nice solid stat
really good,
for a card.
And this is the thing about most of the Cthulhu cards, is it's like, yes, they add to Cthulhu, but generally speaking, they're also just very good cards in themselves. And there it is.
Call of the Wild.
Call of the Wild coming out.
And then followed up by another Call of the Wild, potentially.
Let's make magic.
That is the best feeling. Double
He's
Call
got
of
a
the
pretty
Wild.
good answer for it with the Forgotten Torch and Frostbolt, obviously with the spell damage as well.
Yeah, there's no Cthulhu in deck, as you can see. It didn't appear.
Yeah, so usually with the Cthulhu, it would give you Cthulhu +1/+1 every time you used a spell. Obviously, as we didn't see Cthulhu appear in the corner of our screens, we know that he's not running Cthulhu in this deck.
What is he running in this deck? There's got to be some sort of...
It's Tempo Mage with Yogg-Saron, I think.
It must be Yogg-Saron because there's so many spells. You've overloaded on spells.
The fact that the Forgotten Torches are in there would maybe
that's
that.
the only thing that I think leans me towards an inclusion of Yogg-Saron is the fact that there is basically there is I don't even know where I was going with that. Is the Forgotten Torches.
Torch,
yeah. Because you wouldn't classically include that many spells in
for
a Tempo
Tempo Mage. He has run out of tempo.
Yeah.
This is looking better and better for Boar Control, actually, as we see Enzoth off the top. And what Death Rattle minions have died so far? Is
two
it just
Infested Wolves.
Is it just the wolves?
Yeah.
And obviously there's the Savannah Highmane on board. I guess he's expecting that to die to whatever is in the hand of Greensheep, but as we can see, there's not really enough. Actually, I say that with the spell damage, it obviously doubles, doesn't it? So
yeah, Enzoth is gonna kick some butt here, though.
Yeah. Now that the Savannah Highmane as well has died, that is going to be.
And that's what I love about these Old God cards, is that they've all got their own kind of win condition, and we see everyone trying to build decks. As we see 3 of the Arcane Missiles hit face. And I don't know who found that more funny, Greensheep or Boar Control.
I think this is a pretty good Enzoth turn. I mean, you get a Savannah Highmane and 2 Infested Wolves off the top.
Yep. And basically, you should just concede if you're Greensheep unless you top deck Yogg-Saron, and then we never know what's going to happen.
I suppose maybe do it this way around, and then you can kind of, obviously you get the Knife Juggles to try and clear board, but also you don't show that win condition just yet. Obviously, if you're looking through the eyes of Greensheep, you don't know that this is an Enzoth deck. I mean, you can assume that it is, but you don't know for certain that it is.
But I mean,
And
in
like,
last year's standing, perhaps.
if he has some clear or something, then he has to use it now. And then Enzoth, when he brings back all those Death Rattle minions, you've still got that win condition.
I suppose, yeah, he might be slightly worried about Yogg-Saron just getting dropped now on turn 10. If I was Greensheep now, I'd just drop a wow, just to try and suggest I've got Yogg-Saron and just trying to bait something out. But unfortunately, he doesn't. He just has the Water Elemental, and the Tempo Mage really ran out of steam there.
It's a really interesting concept, trying to build a deck around that card. But you saw, he just drew into so many spells that had absolutely zero impact for the majority of the early portion of the game. Tempo Mage, without having a board by turn 4, you're thinking, okay, I need to make a Flame Waker play to make this work now. No Flame Waker, no out, just a handful of Frost Bolts, Forgotten Torches, Fireballs. I mean, it's great if you're running some sort of burst, but yeah, you're playing into a win condition of one card that practically gives you about a 30% chance to just kill yourself anyway. I mean, it's an interesting deck.
It was a bad matchup as well. That Hunter, it just kind of controls the board, and it's interesting to see. Like I did touch on earlier, that I don't think Hunter has had that many cards that have really buffed Hunter, but obviously Enzoth kind of change that game plan a bit. It's a shame that we lost Feign Death in this expansion, because if you could have had that as well...
You don't need Feign Death, man. You've got Enzoth now.
Yeah,
it's basically...
I mean, it's definitely a thing. I think we'll see it slowly develop as weeks go on, that deck.
Enzoth is like Undertaker's really big brother. It just makes Death Rattle minions, again, really powerful.
Yeah.
It's if you can get to that turn 10 play and draw it,
I find it really interesting as well that Death Rattle's kind of come back into the meta the second Naxxramas has gone. Because Naxxramas was like this massive Death Rattle meta.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, no, I was going to say Death Rattle came in for Nax, but I'm telling a complete lie.
Yeah, there was things like Harvest Golem.
Hoarder and things anyway. But anyway, we're moving on into our next game. Boar Control, obviously one up in this series, winning with his Hunter. And it's going to be Boar Control's Warlock now up against Greensheep's Mage. And if you missed it earlier, both players brought a Shaman and they were unsurprisingly banned.
I mean, we're not sure if this is even an Enzoth Mage. It might. Sorry, if it's even a Yogg-Saron Mage, because all we can see now is it's just a very heavy spell Tempo Mage of sorts. It looks like it's going to be Zoolock with the Sea Giant classic inclusion.
I think this deck's been made famous. Modern Leper obviously got quite high in Legend. I think with RDU as well, they both kind of teamed up to make this deck. It's just classic Zoo with the addition of some cards and using the Doom Guard. It's very solid right now.
And that Forgotten Ritual, if you have that with the
Forbidden Ritual, that with the Darkshire Councilman, is really strong.
Good, yeah.
Really strong. And I think without the Darkshire Councilman, the Forbidden Ritual wouldn't see as much play. But the fact now he can just summon 2 1/1s on board, when otherwise he would just have to tap. I mean, it gives you outs, it gives you more options.
It just feels bad playing 2 mana for 2 1/1s. It's like strictly worse than Living Roots.
Yeah, I mean, it feels bad in some situations, but in this situation, what else have you got, I guess, is the thing.
As a Zoolock, it feels bad to tap too, so...
Especially, the reason why this feels so bad is because you're against a Tempo Mage and you know what Tempo Mages can do.
Oh, he's not even going to play Sorcerer's Apprentice because he wants to save that to combo with Flame Waker at some point, I imagine.
And also because it would just die to the tentacles, which is never a fun time.
Now, this isn't a nasty situation when you've got both Power Overwhelmings and the Doom Guard in hand. You kind of just have to hedge your bets and say, do I throw away these Power Overwhelmings? Do I waste the Power Overwhelmings on my board? Because you have to make that decision. Do I want to use Power Overwhelmings knowing that my minion's going to die, or do I value having those minions constantly hitting?
I would even wager that using a Power Overwhelming now, I mean, depends what you get from Dark Peddler, but using a Power Overwhelming...
Now to clear the Elemental is definitely worth it.
Is pretty good, yeah. You won't be able to clear it fully with just a singular Tentacle, but maybe if you get an Abusive Sergeant off this, or another Power Overwhelming, or even an Argent Squire, I mean, all of those cards are amazing, actually.
I guess you just throw it onto the Imp Gang boss.
Yeah, or you double Power Overwhelming your Tentacle.
Just to get rid of those cards so that they feel like less of a waste, because you've obviously got that Doom Guard as a turn 5 play if you want it.
Feels so bad to throw 9 damage into a 3/6 though, doesn't it?
It does, but at the same time he does maintain this board control, and the Doom Guard is a massive tempo swing following up. If he doesn't draw into something heavy, if he draws into something like a Sea Giant, then he's going to be in trouble.
So interestingly, again, Fireball used there, and this is kind of the awkward turn 4 for Tempo Mage that
we just shouldn't
about.
say things. Sea Giant off the top.
This is terrible. Yeah, I mean, Board Control would want to...
He's just going to have to throw it away, and that feels really bad.
Feels bad, man. Feels really bad, man. But he just saw a Fireball, right?
He did.
And we can see there isn't particularly anything strong in terms of plays for...
I guess you have to Flame Waker here, maybe just Sorcerer's Apprentice as well with the Arcane Missiles to get as much board control, much board presence as possible.
You're never going to get board control from this situation, but maybe you can clear the... Greensheep's face is telling me that something went horribly wrong for him. Yeah, something went horribly wrong for him.
I mean, the odds weren't really in his favour there.
Oh, the
Dark Iron Dwarf. So the variant made, I'm going to say famous by Modern Lepo and RDU, runs Gormok rather than Dark Iron Dwarf, and they run 2 Argent Squires. But I think Dark Iron Dwarf is fine, especially if you're set at home and you want to play this deck and you don't have Gormok, because it's obviously a legendary you might not have crafted. So Dark Iron Dwarf is definitely a good replacement. He may well be running both instead of 2 Argent Squires.
So we're going to see the 6-drop almost certainly here. The Faceless Summoner, and see what we'll get in terms of the 3-drop it provides. That's a pretty good 3-drop.
3/4 body.
3/4 body.
Yep. I think you definitely take that.
Oh, Defender of Ice.
Argus
Nice.
off the top.
And where do you play your... Do you just play it between your 2 big minions, or would you buff up the 1/1 and try and protect?
I think the 2...
I guess against a mage you can't really protect them anyway.
I think the 2 1/1s here isn't bad. But you're not going to be able to... I mean, you could play it between your 5/4 and 5/3, but realistically...
Well, you can only play one of the 1/1s anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy here summons 2 1/1s.
Just one, when he dies.
Oh, when he dies, oh, it's a Death Rattle, is it?
So basically, he's the equivalent of 2 1/1s.
Oh, Death Rattle, there we go, yeah. So it's, for some reason I thought it was a Battle Cry, in which I was like, oh, a 1-mana or 2 1/1s is
that
good.
would be very good.
It's the equivalent.
Well, that would be Living Roots.
That would be even more broken.
Living Roots, yeah. It's a very difficult decision here, actually, because you could Defender of Argus in between these two. You could trade your Doomguard into the 3/4, but your 4/4 would die if you trade it into the 5/5.
I think he's also worried about Flame Strike as well. I mean, he's seen all these spells. Why? There well could be a Flame Strike in the deck.
This is the best way of doing it, I think. Oh, he's going to go face as well. I mean, yeah, he has to pressure lethal at some point, right?
Ragnaros the Firelord. Definitely an interesting decision.
Ooh,
and
could
playing
you vaporize here?
Well, he's only got 2 mana left, which makes the Ethereal Conjurer feel really bad this turn.
He was searching for Frostbolt as an out, I would say. Because he doesn't actually have any other outs. I mean, Arcane Missiles is a huge gamble. And
the fact they're all 3 mana cards is just horrendous.
Arcane Blast, Frostbolt, all of those, even Ice Lance would have been an out to just keep him alive. He can, he can trade into the 5/2, Arcane Missiles, and hope it picks off something. I mean, he's not dead on board right now, but he's pretty close to that situation.
And that's the thing with this Zoo, it's just unreal that it just keeps piling pressure, as Zoo always has done. And Zoo's really not changed that much. I mean, there's only, what, 2 new cards that are in the deck now? But similar to Shaman as well, like that's all it needs. It just needs these 2 cards that are just game-breaking, and they really change up the style of play, or they add to the original style of play. And it can just make an absolute tier 1 deck.
All in here from Ball Control. He's going to ignore everything and go face, as you would do in this situation. Yeah. Now, that last turn from Greensheep, would you have just randomly played the Arcane Missiles, hope that 2 of them somehow pinged off that 5/2, and then you went and traded into another minion?
Yeah, I guess when you're in that situation, you try and do what you can to survive.
At the same time, though, I think it's like the odds of that actually achieving anything are so slim. You still survive till the next turn anyway, maybe.
Ice Block will keep him alive.
Yeah.
But
has he got a Flame Strike? That's the question.
I mean, I've seen Tempo Mages with Yogg-Saron being running. I think Amaz was playing one the other day on stream, and he had a Flame Strike in the deck. But obviously, we don't know what these guys have developed. We don't know what they've brought.
I just feel like this deck from Greensheep, yes, like, sure, if you get to Yogg-Saron and you actually get that late in the game, then fantastic, you win the game on the spot. But what if you don't get that late in the game? So far, it doesn't feel like you will.
We don't even know if he's running Yogg-Saron.
No, I mean, it may just be a Tempo Mage with just a little bit of variance, and I'm sure it is strong against certain decks, but against the decks that he's faced, he's just had no chance, and he hasn't had the start that Tempo Mage can have at the start as well.
Without Mad Scientist as well, I just feel Tempo Mage is really hard to make work.
Definitely the loss of Mad Scientist hurts.
Yeah, because you need this tempo swing again. If you have a turn 2 Mad Scientist and you get a secret on board, which could be a mirror entity, then you have a 3-drop and potentially pick up another big drop from your opponent. It's just difficult. I guess Fireball face honorable seppuku, right?
I mean, interesting you say
Well,
Mad Scientist going.
You've got another Arcane Intellect, so if he has another Ice Block, could search for it.
I'm not sure that Tempo Mage would even run Ice Blocks. I mean, he could be running anything, right?
Yeah,
We've seen Ragnaros as well, which typically isn't.
I wanted to answer Arcane Intellect just to see if he draws Yogg-Saron on.
Nope, just a Mana Worm, which won't do him any good as he fireballs himself, and Ball Control will go 2-0 up in this series. And Greensheep is on the back foot here, and his Tempo Mage, or whatever this mage is not performing so well much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't really put my finger on what that mage is, but it just didn't feel like it achieved all that much. It didn't seem like the cards had necessarily great synergy together or anything. I feel like there's just some pieces of the puzzle that weren't drawn that we're missing out on, and like if we'd seen later on in those games, we'd see answers to that.
I think X-Scoundrel had the right idea. Mad Scientist has really hurt Tempo Mage, and I'm interested to see how it's going to affect Freeze Mage as well, actually.
My issue with the way that deck was built, and the way that I've seen a lot of Tempo Mage decks built, is that usually when you look at the mana curve of a Tempo Mage, it's very heavy from 1 to 4, because that's where the real key turns are. You have you lose Mad Scientist and Piloted Shredder, which were often included in a lot of Tempo Mage decks.
That's the turn 4 that we were missing.
Exactly. And the issue is that now you're seeing, because of these amazing 6-drops that you've got in terms of Faceless Summoner and the fact that Ethereal Conjurer is being run at the same time, you're shifting that mana curve up towards the mid-range. So you're running more like a mid-range Tempo Mage deck that isn't really Tempo anymore. So it's like turned into this mid-range Mage deck, but you're just getting shafted by things that... literally, you're just getting, really, really... I'm trying to think of a nice word away from it. Destroyed by things like Zoo, which just control that board really early on. Because the old Tempo Mage, you had that earlier mana curve, allowed you to contest board. And actually, if you drew right in those situations, Tempo Mage was often favoured against these Zoo Flood type decks. Because Flamewaker comes down, you spam some spells, you already have that Mana Worm, that's Mad Scientist, follow up with a Pilot Shredder, suddenly you've got great board control. Not seeing it in this Mage deck.
No, certainly not. But let's see what this Druid deck of Boar controls has to bring to the table. And it looks like Greensheep is going to answer it with a Druid deck of his own. So mirror matchup coming out here.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're both Cthulhu decks.
Yeah, it's like, is it Cthulhu? Is it just going to be that Beast Druid that we saw earlier today out of Hello Leroy? There's certainly options available.
Well, it's definitely a Cthulhu deck for Greensheep, you can see already. It looks like a Cthulhu Druid from Boar Control as well, maybe. I mean, with the inclusion of the Ancient of War, that's an interesting one.
It certainly looks like a ramp druid. You would assume it would be a Cthulhu.
Yeah.
It might just be pure ramp.
Yeah.
No, he's got the...
he's got the Maya Keeper.
So this could be...
Well, Maya Keeper doesn't add anything to Cthulhu.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just a really good card.
This could be the ramp Fandral Staghelm deck that I've seen a few.
Yep.
Because you get a 10/10 Ancient of War is pretty good for 7 mana. And also because of the fact that Ancient of Law had that massive hit to it, we are starting to see less of the Ancient of Laws and more of the Ancient of Wars, obviously, in that turn 7 play.
Yeah, so for those that haven't seen the nerfs directly, Ancient of Law now only draws 1 card instead of 2, which actually is more of a big deal than it sounds.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see much play for it now. I think only for its healing ability will it be key in any decks.
It's actually not bad with Fandral Staghelm, and with the release of Fandral Staghelm, you can actually see why those nerfs came through. Because if you think Fandral Staghelm into Ancient of Law, draw 2 cards, restore 5 health, that's pretty good.
What I love is just that how everyone was like, bye-bye Druid, bye-bye Combo Druid, we won't see you ever again, and then literally ladder has just been Cthulhu Druid, Cthulhu Druid, Cthulhu
Beast
Druid,
Druid,
Beast Druid, and everyone's like, oh no, Druid's back.
Yeah, I'm still dying to Savage Roar. It's still happening. It's even if it's not a single turn play, it still feels just awful dying to a Savage Roar. Same with Bloodless Shaman. Not that exists anymore, really.
People have started including Maya Keeper as well, Munch, and you picked up on it. It's a ridiculously good. It's so
I think
good.
it's underrated as well. When it was first announced, people were like, I'm not so sure because basically you're playing it on turn 4, which means you're potentially going to miss your turn 5. And there's so many good turn 5 cards in Druid that it felt bad. But the fact there's been so much good 6 drops added to Druid, it just means it's fine. And speak of the devil,
Boom!
There is the man himself. I mean, this card, if you want to hover over
Dark
it,
Oracle.
obviously it's a Cthulhu boosting card, so it would suggest that this is a Cthulhu Druid as well.
It's
but
one of the
just a
bird guys as
solid
well. These are the
body.
coolest guys in
They
the whole
are-
of
they
Burning
are
We
so
will,
Crusade.
cool.
we will
guys.
see now if he is.
No.
So he's not. Oh,
Oh,
he
he
is.
is. Okay.
Yeah, never mind.
I mean, I watched Reynard when he was talking about this card, and he said actually for 6 mana, it's actually just a really good stat line. I mean, it's just a really, really good card. And this
Do you
is
know what's better?
yeah.
Turn 5. Playing 2 4 6s. Wow, that's unreal. And having Cthulhu in his hand already is kind of key here, because this matchup could come down to whoever draws Cthulhu first.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these cards, the Twin Emperors, it actually is probably one of the singular cards that makes Cthulhu decks worth playing. It's just so good. I actually like the fact he didn't attack here, by the way.
Another off the top as well. It's
Yeah.
such a solid body. And this is the kind of problem. Imagine if you were playing a face deck now. I know you said this like kind of face is still the place, but this board is what you don't want to be seeing when you're playing a face
It's why
deck.
you're seeing things like Beast Druid and some of the face decks include Black Knight now.
Definitely,
Because they
100%.
need it, right?
We saw Hello Leroy running Black Knight in his Beast Druid.
Yeah.
And I saw, I think, Calento played a variant of Beast Druid, and he wasn't running one of those Black
Did you
Knights.
say Beef Druid?
I might have said Beast Druid.
Boar controls head in his hands because he's got a spell power on board and he's got lots of mana to play with here. He can actually cast all of his abilities, and I think now he's calculating, can I actually get rid of all of this board? Now he trades his 5/5 and his 5/10 into the 4/6 and the 4/6, right? Then you could Wrath for a draw and then swipe with the coin. So you coin Wrath for a draw and swipe, and you clear the entire board.
You lost me.
No, I'm with you. So he can't play everything. He obviously can't play the
Dark
as well.
Arrow into one of the Emperor, Ancient of War into the other Emperor, swipe the opposing Dark Arakoa, and then you can coin Wrath for a draw.
Yep.
Well, we'll see if that's going to be the call here. Looks like he is going to go for the coin Wrath.
Which is a solid play in the fact that you can clear this board and still have so much presence on the board as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty bad for Greensheep.
I want to point out that card as well. Twilight Elder is such a good card. 3 mana, 3/4, adds 1 every turn to Cthulhu.
And that's what you said earlier. Just these Cthulhu cards, they're just solid bodies, and they've got solid effects that it does actually make Cthulhu viable. I think when Cthulhu was first announced, people were like, yeah, it'll probably just be a gimmick. I don't know if it's going to be actual like meta breaking, but oh, the
Off the
nourish!
top, the Nourish and Greensheep, you can see he's upset. You know, people might be wondering why Greensheep ran his face into the Ancient of War. It's because he was literally setting up for a swipe next turn. It's the only thing he had to deal with it. Usually you wouldn't see someone run their face into a 5 attack damage minion if they didn't have to.
And I think we're not going to see Fandral played here because of that play, that tell. Oh wait, no, he's 5 health. What am I talking about? I was thinking he was 4 health for a second there because he was 4 mana.
Do you just rag and hope? I think rag and hope, yeah.
Because if not, you've got a Druid of the Claw and Living Roots, which will be buffed by Fandral as Ragnaros hits the wrong target today.
But
So look at that. He can play
Yeah.
a 4/6 charge. He can also deal 2 damage and summon 2 1/1 saplings.
Just want to bring attention as well to the nice sparkly animation.
And the, like,
Nicely
look,
done.
it's got new pictures around, new artwork.
yeah, I love all the new artwork with the Fandral interactions. Now he's going for broke. He's saying, okay, Twilight Elder on board. I can't deal with this Ragnaros. I'm not going to trade into it because I'll lose my minions and I still won't kill it. He could have done it. He could have killed it with Living Roots, but you lose too much of your board to do that.
So,
Oh, the
as a
swipe's
Drake
good here, though.
swipe means that he can clear the Fandral. And it means he's still alive on board.
And he's got Cthulhu to play next turn.
Ragnaros hits face, though!
Does it matter?
Well,
Yes, it does. Yeah. Sorry. What was I talking about? What
Of
was I
course it
talking about? Of course it matters.
If
Oh.
Ragnaros had just hit either of those targets, there was
Yeah.
always a chance.
And that's it.
So there it is. That's going to be
Another clean
Boar
sweep.
control.
Have we finished 2 matches in before the time that we potentially should have finished 1? I think we have.
I think we have. This is the exact opposite, the polar opposite of what we saw in week 5. I can't even count
Literally
anymore.
last
But
week, yeah.
3-0. Boar Control now 5-1. Well and truly secured his spot. He's looking for first seed at this point.
But Greensheep, he's out, right? He's 2-4.
Yeah, out. Or yeah, 2 and 4. So out of the runnings now. He can't